Hey guys, Caleb's Cards here, coming at you with another World War II TTM autograph binder showcase. This time we're going to be going through my Pearl Harbor collection, and it's been quite fun to go through these, actually kind of realizing how many autographs I have of World War II veterans. And I've been doing this since 2015, sending to them. I haven't been doing as much lately just because unfortunately there aren't as many around. But most uh, of the Pearl Harbor veterans have passed on since I've written. They'd be at least, a minimum 95, being that happened in 1941. But very, very cool collection here that I'm excited to share with you. I just went through and wrote down all the names and took down some notes. So I'm not going to mention and be redundant with every single person saying they're a Pearl Harbor survivor, because each and every single one in this section is. So that'll just be common knowledge, I'm sure, for you guys to know that, and then I'll just spout off some random stuff that comes to mind or already is known about them. So first off, here we have my little beginning page that I separate them in. Some of these cards came from some people and I added them in. This one I printed, Avenge Pearl Harbor. And then there's a couple. There's a memorial, the floating memorial in the back here, and then this is the Pearl Harbor story in the back that Henry gave me. So first off, this is going to be Mr. Alex Razny. He also later fought in New Guinea. This is Mr. Ray Chavez. He was born in 1911 and was 106 at the time when he signed this for me. This is Raymond Wands, who was aboard the USS Curtis. He also included some extras which we'll come across later. This is Jack Holder, who was a B-24 flight engineer. And also all the cards will be vertically, because that's how they are on the pages, by the way, so I hope that's alright. Clarence Fundheller was aboard the USS Maryland. We actually have quite a few guys from the USS Maryland that we'll come across here. Ray Garland was in the Marine Corps. He was stationed there at Pearl Harbor, so he was on land at the time. This is Mr. Bill McCannany, and I got a few more things from him as well. This is Armando Galea, or Chick as he was called. He was part of the 53rd Signal Corps there in Pearl Harbor. This is Joseph Triolo, who was aboard the USS Tanager. And here we have some extras from Raymond Wands. On this photo of him when he was joined up. Kind of looks a little bit like my dad when he was younger, honestly. But very cool extras from him. This is also a really nice note that he wrote back. This is Clarence Fundheller. Talked about his story in a newspaper. So he sent a copy of the article to me. And this is the letter that we got from Mr. Bill McCannany. So, very cool. That one was Alex Razny. He was the first guy that we showed. And there's Armando Chick Galea. So very cool. Next up, we have Bernard Comito. He was on Canacho Bay, I think is how you pronounce it. And I included a business card. This is Delton E. Walling. He signed a few things for me. It was really cool of him. We got Mr. Richard Cunningham for the USS West Virginia. Oh, and Delton Walling was on the USS Pennsylvania. This is Floyd Welch, who was aboard the USS Maryland. Ewalt Schatz, who was aboard the USS Patterson. And this is Cecil E. Chandler, who sent us a few more things as well. So here's a nice poem that Delton E. Walling got from a young man that he decided to make a copy of and share. This was the extra that Cecil Chandler sent. So not only did the Japanese attack Pearl Harbor that day, they also attacked other places. So they attacked the Philippines, Malaya, Thailand, Guam, Wake, and Hong Kong. And then this is total 2,403 killed. Nearly half were lost when the Arizona blew up. So the Arizona, basically half their crew died. 2,000 from the Navy, 109 from the Marines, 218 from the Army, 68 civilians. So quite damaging. One of the worst attacks on American soil, next probably to September 11th. Next up we have Mr. Gilbert Meyer, who's aboard the USS Utah. He also included a business card. That's what his ship looked like after the attack. That's Donald Stratton. He was a USS Arizona veteran. He recently passed away. Was quite active in that, really talking about Pearl Harbor and going to events and signing for TTM collectors like us. So he'll be definitely missed. And he included a few extras. This is Mr. Edward Guthrie, who's aboard the USS Whitney. This is Fred Johnson, USS Maryland. This is Earl T. Williams. He was a B-17 flight member. Jackson B. Davis. He was 100 years old at the time they signed this card for me back in 2015. That was one of the first ones I got back. This is Mr. Jim Downing. He was 102, I think. 101 when he signed this. He's a Colorado, or was a Colorado native. So kind of a Colorado hero there. This is John G. Matthews. Yeah, he was stationed at Ford Island from 1941 to 47. This is Edward Stone. He's aboard the USS Pyro, as you can see there. And he did include some extras. We got a whole pamphlet about Mr. Jim Downing. There's a picture of Mr. Stone. And there's a note back from Matthews. From his son, I think. Doesn't matter if I show my address, I'm moving anyways. And then we also got a nice letter from him. Talk about his experiences and stuff from the war. This one is Mr. Frank Regina. He's aboard the USS Utah. This is Michael Gontich, USS Pennsylvania. This is William Wood. He was actually in the Air Force. So that's the only, as far as I know, Air Force guy that we have in this section, to my knowledge. Unless Earl T. Williams is considered one. I don't remember. This is a biography of Michael Gantich. These gentlemen are not Medal of Honor recipients, but they were the only customs I had at the time. In hindsight, I should have tried to get different ones, but some of them didn't sign it. So this is Mal Middlesworth. He was aboard the USS San Francisco. This is Mr. Ed Johan, who really should have a Medal of Honor. It's a pretty incredible story. He was wounded and still, with a broken leg, still continued to dive down in the water where there's oil and flames and smoke and everything, trying to rescue sailors who were drowning, and saved quite a few men's lives. So I don't know how he doesn't have a Medal of Honor, but if you read the pamphlet that's coming up next, I think you'd be in agreement that, yeah, he should have had a Medal of Honor. This is Ken Potts. He's a USS Arizona survivor. It's right here. Ed Johan. So he was aboard the USS Solace. He got, I think, a Distinguished Service Cross, but for distinguished devotion for duty and extraordinary courage, disregard of your own safety during the attack on the USS Pacific Fleet in Pearl Harbor, territory of Hawaii, by Japanese forces on December 7th, 1941, while a member of a boat crew of the USS Solace motor launch, he went alongside of the burning USS Arizona in order to rescue casualties while the crew of that ship were abandoning ship. And he had a broken leg at the time, so quite incredible. Let's see if I can put this back with to put the camera down. I don't know how he didn't get a Medal of Honor right there. Next up, we have Mr. Alvis Taylor. He at the time had just suffered from a pretty massive stroke, but was still kind enough to send a lot of items. He was in the Army Medical Department, so he saw some stuff and was there after the attack, tending to soldiers, trying to save their lives. And we'll see some more from him. Now Mr. Tom Berg, who's aboard the USS Nevada, but he put USS Tennessee, so I guess he was aboard both. So there's Alvis Taylor. Here's a article from his VFW post. Here's him when he was quite young. There's a nice letter from him. Here's some original photos of him a little bit later in life, in the 60s or 70s. As well as this one, he's getting an award. He mentioned it. I think it was like a Distinguished Service Award or something like that. I can't remember what it was. And then we got his story, along with some more. Pretty cool read. If you'd like me to just go through and read these one day, just do a whole episode of that, I could definitely might be able to do that. So that was pretty cool. And this was from Tom Berg, who I believe also was in the orchestra, but he had passed away after I sent it to him. Or he was having trouble, if I remember right. This was. Yeah. That's what it was. This I got this afterwards. She wrote me after he passed to tell me of his passing that she'd found that he'd get my letter and all that stuff, so she had my address. This was his I think his wife or girlfriend or something at the time, I can't remember. But very cool. So I wrote her back a sympathy card. This is Mr. Jack Stober. He included this photo. He was aboard the USS Whitney, and then he signed the back of the photo I sent him. And also here's a letter that he sent. And another letter. And a copy of a letter that was written to him that he really liked from a first grader. Or a grade 6. Maybe that's an 11th grader. I don't know. I forget. And then this pamphlet, I don't remember who that's from. But I don't think it's signed. Um, this is a cool one. This is from Jim Morgan. He was a 9-year-old witness to the attack at the time. He was born land, and I thought it'd be cool to get a civilian's autograph with a civilian's perspective of it, and he included this whole pamphlet of his. So we'll just read this first place. On the morning of December 7th, 1941, my mother and I were home at 407 2nd Street, Navy Housing, Pearl Harbor. My dad, David J. Morgan, a water tender first class on the destroyer Ward, DD-139, was on inshore patrol at the entrance to Pearl Harbor. At 6:45 a.m., the Ward sighted and sank a Japanese two-man submarine attempting to enter the harbor, firing the first U.S. shots of World War II 1 hour and 10 minutes before the air attack. So they were attacking at sea submarines before the attack came. So, I mean, we kind of knew something was happening. So it's kind of amazing that they weren't on more of an alert. But I guess they did not expect something of that magnitude to happen. So my mother woke me up about 7:30 a.m. to go to church, and like most 9-year-old boys, I wasn't quick to get out of bed. About 8 a.m., she came back to make sure I was up, and that was when we realized something wasn't right. Our house was a typical Navy enlisted family quarters, a 2-story, 4-plex of bedrooms up and living, dining, and kitchen down. We're directly across the street from the Navy oil storage tank farm. That's dangerous. With the front of the house facing west toward the sub base, and beyond that, Ford Island. So we have a couple people who were stationed at Ford Island. My room was on the front, and when I looked out the window, I saw what I thought was a fire in the subbase, when in fact it was the beginning of the fires on Battleship Row. As my mother looked out, a plane with strange markings flew close over the top of our house. She immediately said, "I don't know whose planes those are, but they are not ours. Get dressed and let's get out of here." We then went next door to get our neighbor and her 2 children. Her husband was also on the ward to leave the base. I don't know where we were going, but it didn't matter as the car wouldn't start. My guess has always been that in the excitement, my mother flooded the engine. We all then ran back into our house, an interior unit that seemed a bit safer for the next hour or so. It was sheer bedlam, with the planes, guns, and explosions. The 2 neighbor kids and I finally hid in a closet under the stairs, the safest place we could find. After the planes stopped flying over, people started coming out of their houses and looking at the massive fires in the harbor. It looked like the end of the world. Shortly, Marines started driving up and down the streets, threatening to shoot anyone who wouldn't go back inside. That afternoon, the Marines built a 50 cal anti-aircraft machine gun emplacement on an empty lot just south of our house. Everyone expected more attacks and even an invasion. No one knew what to expect. Fortunately for us, the Japanese didn't bomb the oil tank farm. Yes, that's quite fortunate. I guess one of the hardest things about that day was not knowing the status of my dad or his ship. As it turned out, they came into the harbor to resupply on Sunday, but he couldn't get in touch with us. It wasn't for 3 or 4 more days before we knew he was safe, and he knew we were okay. So wow. So I just thought that would be a cool one to read there. There's more right here. He'd be about 90 years old now. I think he's still alive, but I don't remember. And then he included a map of everything here. This is a letter from Ralph Lakey. We have a card signed by him here that's in this section. This is Richard Jiraco. He was stationed at Ford Island, which we mentioned beforehand. This is Robert Dixon, who's aboard the USS Curtis. Howard Hayes, who was actually a U.S. Coast Guard member on the USCG Taney. There's Mr. Ralph Lakey's signature. It was the USS Solace. We have Joe or Joseph White, USS Schley. We have Roy D. Carter, aboard the USS Oklahoma. Paul Moore, USS West Virginia. We have some more stuff from him. Walter Pasiak, who was in the Schofield Barracks at the time of the attack. Herbert Elfring. He was at Camp Malakole. And this is Stuart Headley, USS West Virginia, And Chester Sky Barnacki, USS Helena. This was a second attempt on this one for him. So here we have a letter from Mr. Paul Moore. He also signed the outside of my letter. There's the USS West Virginia. Here he is at a ceremony, 2017. So the year before I sent to him. And there's also some more stuff from him. Postcard that he sent back home after the attack. There's a painting of the USS West Virginia, and then there's him in 1941, and there's him in 1991. Then this is Mr. Walter Pasiak. He included a photo. This is a index card signed and notated from Walbert Pasiak, or Herbert Elfring, I'm sorry. And this was a note from Stuart Headley. He liked my verse inscription. Also was telling me he's a 97-year-old born-again Christian. So it's very cool. Now Mr. David Russell, who sent us this card. It's a special minor league card that they're honoring some Pearl Harbor veterans with some baseball players alongside them. And this is the photo he signed on the back, and then a letter. And he sent me a Christmas card. Then we have Mr. Maurice A. Stork, Sr. Not only was he at Pearl Harbor, but he was at Guadalcanal, the Philippines, and he was wounded there at the Philippines. This is Emery Arsenault. And this is a custom photo from Mr. Sam Clower, and we also got a video message back from him. He was 101 years old. So that was pretty cool. Schofield Barracks. So that was definitely better than an autograph, getting a video message from him. There's a photo of Mr. Maurice Stork when he was young. And a little bit later. And that's it. Next up would be Battle of Midway. Turning point of the war. So thank you guys for watching this pretty long episode. I hope you enjoyed it. And I hope you have a newfound appreciation for veterans. And hopefully you enjoyed going through this with me. I'll be back with new episodes to come. Talk to you guys all later. Bye.